Well, that was a surprise, wasn't it? They usually bring them in that way, so. Like, whoa, run! And I'm not built for running, sorry. So I'm a little out of breath. So all of us in here, I'm sure, have spent time following the exploits of the Torchwood Institute and its team of specialists defending Earth from both aliens and any number of human threats. Our guest today is none other than Ianto Jones himself, Gareth David-Lloyd. He's here to regale us with tales from the family. Photobombed, all right. And maybe, just maybe, tell us how good of a kisser Phoenix Comicon alum John Barrowman really is. Please welcome Mr. Gareth David-Lloyd.
How's it going? Yeah, don't ask me that question, please. If you ask me that question, I'm going to ask you what it's like to ask really annoying questions.
So, before we get started, I understand you had to teach a little geography lesson last night that Wales isn't located in Canada?
Definitely not in Canada, no. That's right, yeah. Yeah, I think so. Who was that?
Robert and Michael were telling me about it, so
right,
I
yeah,
got to ask you. These are the con stories that you guys don't get to hear, so I'm going to open with it.
Yeah, well, since Doctor Who and Torchwood, actually, they were the shows that really let a lot of Americans know that Wales wasn't in England as well. They always ask what it's like to live in England, and I don't live in England. I'm a Welshman.
Fantastic. So, off of Torchwood, favorite football team?
I don't watch soccer. Really?
Whoa.
I'm not really. I'm a big rugby fan.
So you,
Which is closer to your football,
absolutely,
I suppose.
absolutely.
Yeah.
How was the World Cup?
It was good. It was good. The All Blacks deserved to win. How did you do in the World Cup?
Same as every time.
Yeah, well, we did good. We quarter-finals. I think we fought really hard. I think we just gave away too many penalties.
Too many injuries.
Too many injuries and too many penalties. But we I'm proud of the team. They did well.
Absolutely. Well, you know, with a crowd like this,
And we beat England. That's all that.
with a crowd like this, I'm sure they have plenty of questions and don't want to hear mine. So let me open the floor directly to questions. Right
Yes.
here.
Hi. I was wondering, when you auditioned for Ianto, did you know at the time that you were eventually going to be Barrowman's love interest?
No, not at all. When I auditioned, the character was called Idris Hopper. They changed the name. Russell changed the name because I'd previously done a show called Mine or Mine. I did one episode, and the character was called Ianto Jones. And because of scheduling, they had to cut the series from 6 episodes to 5, so a lot of storylines had to be axed. Mine was one of them. It's back in the DVD version, but as a gesture and an apology for the storyline being cut, Russell gave me my name back, Ianto Jones, in Torchwood. I had no idea I was going to be with the lead character's love interest. There was definitely a flirtation there, but I was under the impression that Ianto was going to die pretty quick. He was going to be the red suit guy from Star Trek. But they liked the chemistry, they liked the dryness that I brought to the character, and kept me on, which was nice. A lot of people say, what was it like when you found out you were going to die at the end of season? Has everyone seen it? How many? It's too fucking late.
Spoiler.
How did you feel? And I thought I was going to die in the first series, so I was really stoked to have got that far. So it wasn't a big sort of, it wasn't a big negative thing for me. I felt privileged to have got that far.
So, speaking of you being killed off on the series, I remember when that happened, there was this huge groundswell of support. I mean, there were websites and charitable drives and stuff like that. What was that like as an actor to know that you connected with fans that way?
It was really flattering and quite overwhelming. I've got a fucking shrine in there. Sorry if there are children here. But it is an adult show, so... fuck yourself. Yeah, I've got a shrine. They sell loads of coffee. I think it was a bit of a double-edged sword because I BBC didn't employ me for quite a while afterwards. I thought, well, this guy's trouble. We're having coffee sent in by the ton to the BBC. Lots of letters of complaint, death threats. So I think they left me alone for a little while, but it didn't last that long. But yeah, I'm stoked to have a shrine. That is something a lot of actors cannot say. Well, I think I'm the only one with a shrine that's been going as long as it has anyway. So thank you anyone who's put their knickers or anything on the shrine. It's still going strong and still maintained.
And right here?
Along with the character's death, a lot of people were actually, as you said, very sad about it. And now that Peter Capaldi is the Doctor, has anything been said about sort of merging that with the Torchwood storyline and maybe?
I think it's been talked about actually. I can't remember what exactly it was, but Russell actually came up with quite a nice idea of how of connecting the character Peter played in Torchwood to the Doctor. I can't remember how he did it. But yeah, I think that would be interesting. It has been thought about. It has been, yeah. I'd love to come back at some point, but we'll see.
And right here?
Having come from the Doctor Who universe, who's your favorite Doctor?
I grew up with Sylvester McCoy, so he's sort of my Doctor. He was the Doctor when I was a youngster, when I watched the show, so I think he'd always be my sort of number one. But they're all great. I mean, all of them have brought something dynamic and wonderful to the role. I love Peter Capaldi anyway. I think he's a great actor. He's quite closely my number two.
Right here?
In your opinion, what was the most outrageous moment during your time on Torchwood? And did it have anything to do with filming in the beginning of the series, the Pink Mist episode? Did it have anything to do with it?
The sex gas.
The sex gas.
No, we were all still quite new to it at that point. We hadn't really forged our relationships as actors. So we were all quite well behaved around each other and all wanted to give a good impression to the producers and the directors. That stopped. And John Barrowman being the sort of leader of the shenanigans. But there are countless stories of mostly involving John Barrowman and his penis. That I could tell you, but I'm sure you've all probably heard them all, haven't you? No. I knew it! My favourite, well, I've got two favourite stories actually. There's the Doak and I from Random Shoes, and there's the curler incident. Have you heard these stories? No. Yeah, a few times. Eve likes to tell the curler incident. I'll tell that one. We were all sat in the trailer one morning, and Eve put a bit of a kink in her hair. She had these massive rollers in her hair. They're like that big. So she was sat there with these rollers, and she just felt something on her cheek, sort of tapping her cheek like this. John Barrowman's voice going, "Hey Evie, someone's come to say hello. Hey Evie, look, someone's come to say hello." And she turned around, and John, well, with her eyes, and John had his penis through the roller. Slapping it on the side of the tree. How he's never got arrested is beyond me. And the other one, you know, the Random Shoes episode with the Doak and I, the Eugene episode. It was a prop like this, and it was an eye, like a bit like a doll's eye. But if you moved it around, the eye moved, and it lit up and everything. And John came in one morning, always in the morning for some reason, and said, he had a shifty look on his face, and he said, "Oh my God!" I was like, "What? The Doak and I's gone missing. We're filming with that all day. Well, what are we going to do?" And he took it seriously. He said, "Oh, really? It's gone. We need that prop. Everyone uses that prop today." And he said, "I'm just going to look down here for it." And he bent over, dropped his pants, and the eye was in his arse. I was so happy I didn't have to handle that prop. Any point of the episode. And then he started moving it around, so the eye was moving as well. Harry's never arrested. There's one more story I can tell as well. And this, I think, they actually got into a bit of trouble for with the producers. But I'm going to tell it anyways. They can't kill me off for fighting, can they? Yeah, so we were filming in a hospital, and you know the old system, I'm sure you had them here as well, the old system of sending messages around a hospital. It's like a tube, you stick a message in, and it goes to where, amazingly goes to wherever you wanted it to go. So we were bored, we were in part of the hospital that wasn't used as a hospital, and forgot that it was actually, there was a big maternity ward in the hospital. So Johnny thought it'd be funny to take a Polaroid of his cock and balls. And so they rolled it up, put it in the pipe, and it was gone. As they did that, they sort of both realised what they'd just done. Smiles turned to frowns, and they, there was a woman waiting to have her baby, sat there in a hospital bed, had just arrived. I wonder what this is. Yeah, she should have got an autograph. Be worth millions. Yeah, I'm going to stop it. Lots of shenanigans to answer your question. Yeah, lots of fun. Lots of, yeah.
So for the action scenes, did you have to train a lot for that, or did you come in with previous experience, or?
We had a bit, especially with the gun. You have to know how to use a gun to look confident with it. So we had a bit of gun training. We always had a fight choreographer, Tom Lucy, to do the fight scenes, but there was no sort of preparation or rehearsal training. It all happened on the day before we did it. And I didn't do hardly any of the first series. It was only the second series that they let me out of my cave a bit more to go out in the field with the guys. So they had a lot more action-y scenes than I did. But yeah, it was good fun when I did get to do it.
Okay, so you probably haven't thought about this, so it's putting you on the spot, but if you were to take over the world, how would you do it, and who would be on your team?
Wow.
We won't hold it against you.
I take my handler, Susan Draper, who sat there in the corner, because she's a mega bitch. She would take everyone out quite easily. She's still there?
No.
She's not, she's lovely. How would I take over the world? I don't know. Pardon? Oh, right, there she is. Shit. I'm in trouble now. That is a think about question. That has put me on the spot. But yeah, she'd be on my team, definitely. And she'd have a big gun. Big blaster.
So no Barrowman on the team?
No. So going back to the action scenes, like he was the biggest wimp I've ever oh, you hurt my hand! Oh no! And he's always falling about, hurting his leg and his knees, but he is not the butch action hero that he very well portrays. He much prefers dancing and singing constantly.
Yeah, right here.
In real life, obviously, you seem very animated. Who did you use for inspiration for that character of Ianto that was really reserved and withdrawn, very internal?
I didn't use anyone in particular. I mean, Ianto is very much me. We have a lot of the same traits. Sense of humour is almost identical, but his reserved sort of internal sort of shyness. That's just, you can just apply that. There are lots of people that are like that, and you just sort of remember that in that first season that he's hiding something constantly. He never really wants to give too much away, and that was the starting point really. With that sort of idea that he's got a secret in the basement, and he deals with everything, deals with pain, deals with loss just by making light of it. So he sort of grew organically, I suppose.
So I will ask you how you feel about kissing, but how did you feel when you found out you would?
Great. I mean, if you're the love interest of a leading character in a show, then you get a lot more lines. So I was really happy. And John's so great to work with. I mean, I was doing more scenes with him, which was loads of fun. Yeah, and it was almost like a bit of a promotion, really, I suppose. In the beginning, I was team number 5, the guy in the red suit, and then, by season 3, I was, in a relationship with the leading character. So it was good. It felt like getting a promotion. It felt like they trusted me enough to, have that responsibility.
So speaking of that, and this was not that many years ago, but I know I've spent a lot of time in the UK, and the BBC is much more liberal than US TV, but when Torchwood aired here, the idea of 2 male characters in a relationship was a really big deal. And have you ever thought about the impact you might have had on that cultural zeitgeist? I mean, it was a really opening thing in the US, at least.
Absolutely. I mean, it was in the UK. I mean, obviously, there've been Queer as Folk, there've been lots of other shows with same-sex relationships, but it was the first one that was a sci-fi show, especially linked, spin-off from a family show, Doctor Who. It was the first sci-fi show that had a same-sex relationship at the forefront, and we were very aware and very proud of that when we were making it. And we knew it was going to make an impact, especially if it got to the States, which it did. So yeah, we were proud of that movement, and it's opened doors for a lot of other shows to do the same thing. It should never be an issue. It's been an issue for far too long. People say, what's it like? How do you feel about being in a same-sex relationship in a show? It's as soon as you sort of start thinking about that, then it becomes an issue, and my sort of stance on it is it should never be an issue. It's just a relationship in a show, whether it's the same sex or not. It's not something to be sort of discussed in depth. It is if you're talking in regards to people who are against it, but as far as I'm concerned, as far as John and a lot of other people are concerned, it's not an issue. It should never have been.
Yeah, right here.
Tell us about any upcoming projects you have.
Yeah, I'm playing Brick in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof for Theatre Clwyd, which is it's a Welsh-based theatre company, but the director and the producers are from the Dolman warehouse in London, which is quite exciting for me. It's my first lead in a play professionally. I played Mac the Knife in the Front Opera with the National Youth Theatre in London when I was 21, but this is my first lead in a play, and what a great play to do it with as well. So I'm really excited. That is in February, March in Theatre Clwyd, Cardiff and Swansea. So if you are over in the UK, I know some of you might be planning a trip, come and see it.
So what was it like when you went into audition for Russel? I mean, people that aren't familiar, I mean, Russel's a big freaking deal in the UK. He is over here as well, but is that intimidating? Is it?
Well, both of my auditions for both Russell shows Russell wasn't in the room. The producer and the directors were, but I was very aware that it was a Russel T. Davies show, and that is nerve-wracking. They filmed it. They filmed both auditions, and you knew that Russell was going to be watching them if the producer deemed it worthy enough. So yeah, it was nerve-wracking, and for 3 weeks I thought I hadn't got it. I thought the audition went all right. I felt like I'd done my best, but I didn't really get anything in the room, any sort of response or clues as to how they thought it had gone. So I just I closed the book on it and thought, that's it, had a go, didn't get it, and then it was 3 weeks later I got the call. I was actually on my way to audition for another play, and I was about to step onto the train, and I got the call, and then didn't step on the train, went to the pub and had a pint to celebrate.
So speaking of the pint, what is the proper pint that you would celebrate with?
For me, I like German lager.
Okay.
But I also like British ales as well. British beer.
Nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Okay, so like you said earlier, Ianto's not very you've kind of been in the background for most of the first season, but you do have a lot of emotional scenes, like for Cyberwoman, Adam, Children of Earth. What do you say would be the hardest acting-wise, the scene that you've done?
Oh, In Torchwood or just? In Torchwood, it's a Torchwood panel, so probably the one, you mentioned Adam, the one that was in the, I mean emotionally I think once you get there as an actor, the journey getting there can sometimes be a bit difficult, but you sort of do that in preparation as you're walking to set. But the hardest scene in situation for me had to be the one where he was sat in the rain crying after he'd killed lots of women in well, he thought he'd killed lots of women in Memory Adam. And because it was freezing cold, and rain machines on TV and films, they have to, the pressure of the water is a lot harder and heavier than it would be from real rain, because it has to pick up on the lens, and the real rain just doesn't. So it is like being in a really powerful shower of freezing cold water at 3 o'clock in the morning, fully clothed, doing take after take after take, and that I nearly despaired. That was real pain on my face. I couldn't do any acting at all. Yeah, so those, and anything with CGI, you have to use, I mean, acting is about using your imagination anyway, but the more of a set or a situation that's created for you by the artists and the set builders and the designers, the easier it is for an actor, because you've got it there and you're reacting to physical things. But when CGI is you have to use a little bit more imagination. It's a little bit more difficult. Yeah, so the rain and CGI, they're probably the hardest things I had to do in Torchwood.
Yeah, right here.
Oh, sorry. What was it like for you and the rest of the cast when you found out that a major character was going to die in a new episode?
Horrible. We were lucky in the sense that our cast really got on and still do. We really gelled, and we were great chemistry between us. And by that stage, by the time Tosh and Owen were leaving, we forged a really close-knit family. And Byrne and Naoko just approached us together and said, look, at the end of the season, we're leaving, but our characters died. And it was just shock at first. I thought, killing off 2 fucking characters for a start, and then I realised that if we went back, we wouldn't be working with them again. And it was sad. Everyone was very emotional. The tears shed by John, Ian, and myself in that last episode were very real. I didn't cry as much as I did when I found out I was going to die, but I cried then.
I was wondering, has there ever been a point in your career where acting has become more of a cathartic experience for you, like working through your own personal pain or anything like that?
You draw on what you know. I mean, as a sci-fi show, it can be difficult with CGI because you have to invent more, because it's a lot of what you're dealing with is fantasy. But of course, all actors have different techniques. Some are heavily into the methods, some are just complete character actors. And I do draw on what I know, and then you apply that, and then you create around that. You fill it out with mimicry and whatever else actors use. But I do, yeah. I think you have to get that sort of realistic texture to it. I mean, it's a good starting point to draw on real experience. I'm not like an actor who stays in character when the director says cut, because I think that's just silly. But I think it's important for all actors to draw on real experiences.
I'm actually like rushing up with when you kind of Owen and Tosh were dying. This is actually a question for the character Ianto in the the whole thing Owen went through with the resurrection world, the almost Miracle Day-esque experience of him being kind of like an undead zombie. How do you think Ianto would have reacted if it had been him instead of Owen to go through?
It's interesting you should say that, because it was originally supposed to be Ianto that went through that experience. He was supposed to be the Walking Dead. Then Russell thought, hang on, it's much more interesting because Owen's the doctor and he does all the autopsies. It was much more interesting a concept for the dead to be tending to the dead. And I agree completely. And also, it would have meant I died at the end of the second series, so I was very happy about that change. Yeah, and I think, yeah, and Owen was much more visceral, much more emotional as well. So to have those, I think it was more of a tragedy, more of a psychological war for him to have those things happen to him. He's a very sexual person, very impulsive, where Ianto was like the lady said earlier, very much more reserved and internal. So it wouldn't have been as interesting to watch. Owen was the emotional character, having those things, not being able to feel anything, not being able to have sex, not being able to eat, not being able to drink, not being able to get drunk. It was more interesting to take those things away from him.
Yes.
Who's asking?
Go.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. I have to ask because he's always like cast as really callous characters. What's it like to work with Byrne, and what's he like in person?
Oh, he's a twat. No, he's lovely. Like I said, we all got on so well, and Byrne especially. I missed when he went. We had a good friendship, and he's a great actor. He's a very, very good physical character actor. So nothing like the characters he plays on most of his shows. He's lovely, very giving actor.
So we've already gotten Ianto back recently in a Big Finish production. Are we going to get more Ianto in Big Finish?
They haven't asked me yet, but they'd be silly not to. Yeah, I'd love to do it. It was really good fun revisiting the character and just jumped off the page. It was lovely to do that again. I'd like to do it in the room with the other guys, and it would be even better to get Byrne and Naoka back as well to do one and to do some scenes with them again. That would be, I'd enjoy that immensely.
So, with your experience with a micro-budget movie recently, and then considering 2 years ago we had a similar type of situation with the 5-ish Doctors, what's the possibility of maybe the dead cast of Torchwood getting together and doing something for the 10th anniversary next year?
I'd love to. I mean, I'm sure John Barrowman's schedule wouldn't allow for it.
Do the dead ones only.
Just do the dead, yeah. I'd do it. I don't think Byrne's schedule would allow for it either. But yeah, I'd love to do that. But I think it's easier for 5 Doctors to raise the money than it would be for the cast of Torchwood. But a nice idea. A nice idea.
What is your favorite screwdriver model?
Phillips. I don't know them all, to be honest with you. I'm not that knowledgeable about all the screwdrivers. But, I like the gold one.
What was one of the most physical, challenging scenes that you filmed?
Like I said, the ones in the rain, the cold rain and the CGI were challenging. A lot of people say, wasn't the death scene really challenging when you died? How did you feel about that? And that was probably the easiest scene because I was leaving, and we filmed it right at the end of the shoot. We wanted to keep it, and everyone was sad, and it was that was the easiest to shoot. It was easy to be upset.
Okay, so if Torchwood can have a pterodactyl roaming around as a house pet, if you could have any house pet in the world, what would you have?
Oh, that's a good question. It would have to be something like a Komodo dragon. Something like that. I wouldn't survive very long, but I'd enjoy it.
Yeah, right here.
Just to go back to where everybody died on the show, was there a plan, or were they trying to end it? Is there a plan to move on forward in a different direction?
With Miracle Day? Yeah, I think that was the plan. The plan was to move it to America.
Why they didn't want to have
The other 3? Well, we'd all died.
No, that's what I mean. Why did they find it necessary to have all 3 of you leave
Just as Russell says, high drama. You know, he knew the characters that were popular. He knew what would make the biggest impact. At the end of the day, television is drama. So to create that drama, he just wanted to hit George R. Martin it, and you know, and shock people and hurt people and play with their emotions. A lot of fans didn't take too kindly to it, but at the end of the day, that's what TV is. It's drama. But I don't think the decisions to kill those characters off was part of the plan to move. I think that was, I think Ianto's death had been decided before they knew what they were going to do with season 4.
Okay, so as you know, Eve was supposed to be here and had to cancel. She's now going to
Bitch.
She's now going to be at our June show, because I'm the resident Doctor Who Torchwood guy, so I'm probably going to be doing her panel.
Oh, good luck, mate. Good luck.
Give me a couple stories to play with besides the John Barrowman penis story, please. I'll let her have that one.
Stories about Eve. Those are the ones you'll hear those stories again from her probably. Those are her favourite stories. How can I get her into really big trouble?
I won't credit you, of course. So
No, I'll come back to you on that. I'll let it mull over while answering other questions.
Go ahead.
Did it add to the excitement when you got that part that it was part of the Doctor Who universe since you were a fan?
Oh yeah, definitely. I read an article a few months before I auditioned, from Russell released the information that he was going to make an adult show that was a spin-off of Doctor Who about alien hunters in Cardiff, and I thought that is a show that I want to be in, and the idea of it was so appealing to me that I just shrugged it off, because those shows that you really, really, really want to be in or really, really, really want to get seen for, actors just don't. There's so many shows and so many actors that the likelihood of you getting seen for exactly the show that you want to see is not very high. But I did, and it was I did, and I was, it was a dream come true. It was a life-changing role.
With the episode that you were in Doctor Who,
Where are you?
with the episode that you were in Doctor Who, what was it like filming on set? Like, I know you weren't actually interacting with David Tennant, except for, through the screen. But
That was green screen. That was one of those horrible CGI moments. Gutted because David wasn't in that day, so we had to film it separately. But go on.
Right, but how did it feel to be you went from spin-off to the actual series?
Yeah, it was very different actually. We were by that stage as well. We were very, very we were a bit precious about Torchwood, and that was our show, and it was new and it belonged to us. So it was no more exciting than actually being in Torchwood. But the fact that I got to fire a machine gun at a Dalek was amazing. And we had to change things up slightly because Doctor Who is a family show. So the style of acting is just a little bit more heightened, a little bit more in the world of fantasy than Torchwood, where we were on a mission to make it as realistic as possible, so then the fantasy and the aliens seem more possible, more plausible.
Yeah.
As you know, the fandom's very obsessed and they analyze everybody.
Are they?
Yeah.
I've got a fucking shrine, madam.
I'm a little bit new to the fandom, and I think it's really impressive, the information and things that are out there. Have you ever been one-upped by a fan, somebody that you misremember?
Screwdriver. All the time. I mean, Doctor Who, I'm a firm believer that the fans are the show. Without the fans, it's known for being a show that people are really, really addicted to and really, really invested in. And I think that's part of what gives Doctor Who its identity, is the fans. So, yeah, it's all down to you guys.
Right back here in the back. Yes, please.
First of all, congratulations on your lead role. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
For the fans there, I do hope that, and not for you guys, I do hope they do it bilingually. That would be only fair.
Bilingually?
Well, since they have to do it.
It's set in Louisiana. what other accent what other language would you do it in? In Welsh?
American.
No. We're not going to do it in Welsh. It would be really strange.
But interesting.
Yeah, interesting.
As an actor, do you enjoy this type of genre? Or what is your favorite? I mean, would you like to cross over, like some of your cohort have, Arrow and Game of Thrones and things like that? Or would you just like them to Coulson you and bring back Torchwood with you in charge?
Any of the above? I'd love to be in Game of Thrones. It was a great show. I was really jealous when I saw Byrne in it. He was fantastic. But yeah, just a small role like that would be great. But like I said, the shows you really want to be in, you seldom get seen for. So, but they're still making them. There's still time. There's still hope. And yeah, bringing. Yeah, I mean, I think the audio Fall to Earth that I was involved with proves that Ianto can take his own episode and entertain, without the other guys being in the foreground with him. I think he can take centre stage for at least some of the series. Absolutely.
If you could only do one for the rest of your career, would you choose stage work or film and television?
Film and television, I think. I love theatre. Theatre's where I started. My history is theatre, but there's just so much more versatility with film and TV. There's so much more you can do. You don't get that immediate audience response, that sort of that clap at the end, that sort of gratification that all actors sort of need. But that's what conventions are for. So there's so much. The world of TV and film allows for so much more, and you can really be subtle. I like nuance. I like subtlety. I like playing with those things on a smaller scale. I think it's more interesting. But I would miss theatre if I had to make that choice. That's the choice I made. I really would start to miss theatre.
What are your biggest musical influences?
I've got loads. I'd say Portishead was my first ever favourite band when I was younger. But my favourite band at the moment are Tool. Yeah, they have been for a while. Yeah.
That's just cool.
Do you like Tool?
Oh, I love Tool. Well, Maynard lives here.
Yeah.
Does he? Arizona. He's got his
winery.
His vineyard. Yeah.
He's a very interesting individual.
Yes.
Eccentric is probably not the right word, but yes, very interesting. Just saw him at concert Halloween night, so yeah, Tool's awesome.
Yeah, he's cool. Yeah.
Another question. What would be you talked a lot about not being called or seen for your dream role in TV, but if you could play, what would be your favorite stage role ever?
Macbeth, I think I would love. I did it when I was in youth theatre. I'd love to have another go at it, being sort of around the right age. And I haven't seen the Fassbender one yet, but I'm sure it's going to be amazing. But yeah, I'll do it on stage. That'll be number one, I think.
Yeah, right here.
It's a little different. Talking about Dragon Age.
Yeah.
What was your experience with that? I mean, have you enjoyed with the different types of media and voiceover work?
I loved it. It was really scary and strange at first because it's very, very different from audio drama. It's different because you go in and they're so careful about not giving away any spoilers. That they don't give you any backstory. They give you a rough outline of what your character is, who he is, and what his relationship is to the player. But that's about it. Then you just get lines on a screen and a little caption of a little description of how that line should be said. Like it'll be eager, at a moderate pace, or angry, loud, and so you sort of get directed without knowing the full reason why. So when you start off, it's quite nerve-wracking, and you hope what you're doing is right. But because those games are recorded over, like I recorded Solus over a 2.5-year period. You do a week, and then you have a few months off. They draw some graphics, and then you go back in and do a bit more. So by like 3 or 4 months into that, then you've got an idea of a stronger idea of what the character is and who he is, and then the more you do it, the easier it becomes to slip into that character. So yeah, very different. Frustrating at first, but I was in love with the character. By the end of it, I was very happy with how he turned out.
Do you have any like weird rituals before camera rolls or you get on stage, like to psych you into?
No, you hear lots of actors. They've got their superstitions, and they've got their, they'll sing a certain song on stage, or they'll do a certain warm up. As long as I'm vocally warmed up, and as long as I'm physically warmed up, and as long as I'm focused and not drunk, then then I'm good to go. There's nothing I do religiously. No.
Do you have any funny stories about props breaking on the Torchwood set?
Props breaking? Yes, I do. There was the wedding episode, and it wasn't the prop; it was the whole set. We shot a lot of scenes in this beautiful hotel. You know the episode I mean, when Eve and Kai get married? And there was a couple of shots the director didn't get in the bridal suite. So it's the scene where John goes in and he kicks the door open. And so they had to rebuild basically the set next to the hub, in between the hub and the TARDIS actually. And so they built this look beautiful, absolute replica of what the room in the hotel was like. But somebody hadn't hung the door quite correctly, it was a little bit stiff. So when John came in and kicked the door, the whole wall was wet. And John, he was so chuffed with himself. It made him look like a superhero. He stood there after this. Yeah, that was probably the funniest, but heartbreaker as well for the poor guys that had got the details so, because everything on the walls smashed and broken. So the art department spent ages recreating this room, and John kicked it over. The whole room.
What was your favorite line to say as
Mobiles, landlines. Mobiles, landlines. What was it? Tin cans with bits of string. Yeah, it's when the phones aren't broken. Does anyone know the full quote? Go on then.
Mobiles, landlines, tin cans with bits of strings. No phones, all phones broken. Hello, anyone there? No, because the phones are broken.
That's right. Yeah. It was so sarcastic. Owen keeps asking him, can we phone them? Should we use the phone? Where's the phone? And it was such a brilliant sight. It was such a Ianto line. It just summed up him brilliantly.
I was wondering if you had any plans to start up another band in the future, because I really enjoyed People Left the Ocean, so you guys spoke about.
Oh, thank you very much. I still talk to the guys, and they're still doing music. Reese is running the studio, and we do have plans. There was plans to do a Christmas song this year, actually, just as a one-off, a single. But because I've been moving house, it's taken up all my time. We've had to gut and renovate a new house, so I haven't had a chance to get into the studio with him. But yeah, there are definitely plans to get back together, whether it's under the name of Blue Gillespie or whatnot. We definitely plan to get together and do some more. I really miss it.
Anybody else? Make sure I get everybody before I keep going. I'll go in the back.
Sorry.
No worries, I'll get you in a minute.
Not really a question per se,
The one that I wasn't invited to, yeah, I know.
You were there though, because my friend cosplayed the shrine.
She cosplayed the shrine. Yes, yeah. I think the shrine was cosplayed at Miracle Day as well, which is a convention back home.
I know that she would want me to tell you that.
Thank her very much. Okay. Next time we go to Gallifrey, say, why didn't you invite Gareth David-Lloyd? Everyone else got to go, why did I get to go?
Go ahead.
If you could have like any gadget from Torchwood, what would it be and why?
Gadgets? Oh, there are so many. There's I think knowledge is one of the most powerful weapons anyone can have. So probably that little tool that Tosh has that she attaches to anything, and it just downloads into her mind, like books, computers, any one of those, where you just download knowledge into your mind straight away without spending weeks reading or, because you could just become, knowledge is cool.
When it comes to the technical side of filming, do you prefer US or UK? Is there a lot of difference between the two?
It was shot in Canada really, so it was a Canada crew, but from what I understand, it's very similar, and there's not a lot of difference. I will say Britain's a bit more slow-paced, where you'll get more takes, and you'll have more time to sort of build up. The one I did, Warehouse 13, lovely crew, and I had great fun. It was a lot faster paced. They've got a quicker turnaround, shorter timelines into which to make things. Because you guys make like 24 episodes of something, in in the same time that we did Torchwood, which was 13 episodes, 7 months. So yeah, it's nerve-wracking when you've got that type of timeline to stick to.
Catering better?
The catering is much better over here. Because everything's 3 times the size.
For Warehouse 13, that awesome fight scene that you and Jamie had.
Oh yeah.
How much practice did you get, and how many takes did it take?
That is the one. These questions are connected because that is the one bit that I got quite frustrated at. We got shown the fight once, and then all of a sudden they were set at the shop. We rehearsed it like once, and it was quite an intricate, quite a long fight scene, and they wanted us to just do it. And I was not prepared for it. I was not I was expecting to have more time. I was expecting to go through it. We'd ask questions, but no, they wanted us to do it straight away. So I said, I'm really sorry. I said, I'm going to need a bit more time on this. They're a bit like. Okay. And we did. But then after that, I learned that I have to do more sort of preparation on my own time.
How much of that was actually you?
But that's. I think they used. I think it was not 90% me. I think there was a high ballet kick. It was a kick to the face, but the stunt guy's leg went up higher than mine, so I think they used that shot for him. But I think it was 9%. They shot it like twice with me and once with the stunt guy, so they could fill in bits.
Well, it turned out really well.
Thank you very much.
I think I have one right back here in the back.
If Ianto could work with any doctor, which one?
Oh, so Ianto's choice and not mine. Okay. He'd probably pick David Tennant because he's the prettiest.
Yeah, go ahead.
Since Martha Jones, who's one of the Doctor's companions, crossed over to Torchwood, would there be any other Doctor's companions or Doctor Who characters you would have liked to have crossed over to Torchwood?
And I would have liked to work with Billy. I've met her a few times. She's always really lovely. Would have loved to work with David, but that wouldn't have happened. Karen Gillan, just so I could look at her. Yeah, I say Billy. I get on really well with Billy. It would be nice to work with her.
Yeah, there in the back.
What was it like to snog John Barrowman?
I think.
What's it like to ask irritating questions? Awful. He's rubbish. He's terrible. I taught him everything he knows. I will tell you the story that the first big snog we had. John actually asked the director to keep rolling. So we did it in one take, but that kiss actually goes on for about 2.5 minutes longer than. Not quite that long, but it was good. It was. I ended up having we both broke down laughing because I realised as he started to smirk that he told him to keep rolling. Kissing. In my mind, I'm going, kisses on set aren't usually this long. Kissing. At which point the saliva started to run down the side of my cheek, and I thought, this isn't going to look good. And then I felt him shaking, and I thought, bastard!
Kind of related, but not exactly related to this question that wasn't supposed to be asked. We also have quite a bit of a Star Wars presence. In the original 4, 5, and 6, it wasn't until about halfway through that he realized that this is supposed to be his sister. So, in that sense, how do you realize, how do you adjust for that as an actor?
You know I'm not Mark Hamill, don't you? This lady know I'm not Mark Hamill.
Like, as an actor, how do you adjust to a change, complete change, in
Right.
the direction that you have been going in?
Okay. In the sense that he was then in relationship with Captain Jack, or in relation to what exactly? To that relationship. Yeah, it was always sort of there, bubbling under the surface. The flirtation was there right from the word go. So it wasn't a massive shock to me, but I was very flattered and very excited to have that responsibility, to have that sort of promotion, as I mentioned earlier. So it wasn't really a gear change. But I know what you mean. Sometimes an actor does have to sort of readjust what they've done with the character because they've completely turned direction. For instance, I didn't know that I had a Cyberwoman in the basement until I was shooting the third episode, and it had been an idea that Russell's sort of been playing with, and then he thought, yes, let's do it, but he hadn't actually told me about it. I mean, I had a lot of direction and a lot of, I think in the brief for the audition is like, this is a guy with a secret, and I thought that was just a comment on how to play him, rather than he has actually got a massive secret. So I was lucky that it wasn't too much. I didn't know before, but it didn't really matter because I didn't have that many lines and there wasn't that much to. But I do feel sorry for a lot of actors who, the writers and producers will suddenly decide to have a change in direction, and it'll be a case of like, did you know that your character is actually a woman? And that could be quite difficult. I should imagine frustrating for an actor. But you have to do it. You have to sort of make it work. I think the key would be to analyse the performances and think, well, how can I make this work? How can I make this happen?
So forgive me if my memory's hazy, but and I could be wrong, but didn't you write an alternate universe comic book? And what was that experience like for Torchwood?
Oh yeah, I wrote Shrouded, which was I love the character of James Marsters played. I love Captain John, and I was asked the question a lot of how would Ianto feel about what happened afterwards, about John sort of Jack sort of moving on, and if Ianto could change if Ianto had that knowledge, would he change anything? Would he go back and save himself? And so I wanted to write something to answer those questions for the fans and for myself. So yeah, that's how that came about. Yeah. If you're ready?
Yes.
Good.
Playing off the previous question about directors changing the direction on you or the role, have you ever been in a position where you really disagreed with where they were taking a character, and how do you handle that?
I mean, at the end of the day, you're the employees.
You're the boss.
Yeah. You're the employee, unless you've created something, or you're a writer, or you're a producer, then you at the end of the day have to do what you're told or leave. I've never been in a situation where I've been unhappy about decisions that are being made, and even if you do sort of question them in your mind, you have to trust them. You have to. Okay, I'm not sure if I agree with this, but they're the boss and they're the creator, so trust them. I can't imagine it'd be. You do hear a lot of stories about actors saying, "No, my character wouldn't do that. My character wouldn't do that." And but if somebody's written a character, they have the power to sort of go, "Well, yes, they would, because I made him."
Go ahead, sorry. One more question.
Along those lines, what is your opinion, or how did you feel about Miracle?
What's Miracle Day? I think there was one very, very important element missing to Miracle Day. Me. Wales. I think Wales was very much a character in the show, and that the backdrop of Wales really helped forge the show's identity. Wales has got very much a unique sort of character, the people there, the way we speak, the way we talk, our sense of humour. It's quite actually different to English, and because of where we are, our history. And I think that backdrop made, there was something fresh about it, putting this sci-fi show on this backdrop of a very real Wales, where the characters were very human and flawed. That's what gave Torchwood its quirk, I think. It gave it its spark, and it's helped, like I said, it helped forge its identity. So I think when they took that away and it moved to America, then it lost. It was one character too many that Torchwood lost. And I think Torchwood, even Miracle Day, was a great series. It sort of lost its identity and became like a lot of other sci-fi shows. It wasn't as sparky and it wasn't as quirky as it once was. I think that's why the show is now on a hiatus. Pardon?
So they put it on Stars, so a lot of people didn't have it, and it tanked in the ratings because of it.
Yeah, no, I'm shown on Stars as well. But I think everyone watched it, bought the copy, bought the DVD. I don't think it did as well as Stars, who put a lot of money into that full series. It didn't do as well as they thought it was going to.
And this will have to be the last question. Go ahead.
Just to make a statement as a fan, I went backwards actually. I actually had Torchwood Miracle Day first. And through her, she said, no, there's others. So I had watched with my husband Miracle Day, the American version. And then when I went back and watched Torchwood, that was a much better, series of episodes than that.
So you agree that Wales gave it Wales gave it its quirk. Thank you.
Well, in closing, thank you very much for being here. Let's hear it. Thank you. Thank you very much.